Kearney from the Department of Biology here. I'm an EFS scholar as well. And I really took to heart Glenn's invitation to think about other modes that we could create within the university that would facilitate thinking across disciplines and taking actions with other faculty members from other disciplines. So I thought I would just share that and ask a question about how we might make this mode that we chose to take on sustainable, I guess, within the academic system of values and challenges. So last year I'm a forest ecologist, and I was really interested in the role that relic trees, that is trees that are left in pastures, what role they play ecologically as compared to their counterparts in primary forests. And I went to NSF actually, and I put in a pre-proposal to the ecosystems program, and they said, well, this is a really important idea, but there's no theory behind it, and we really at NSF want to understand the theory behind what you're talking about so that it becomes extensible and generalizable. And not being a brilliant theoretician myself, I thought, well, maybe there are other systems, other disciplines, other faculty members here who work with the idea of disturbance and recovery, who do have theory that I might be able to learn from. So with a small grant that Glenn helped me get with our Vice President's Office for Research, and also we have a Center for Teaching and Learning Excellence. We got some support to sort of explore this concept of, and specifically, how do relic structures and systems enable or not enable the recovery of a system after disturbance. And actually, there are a number of faculty members that are here, Ellen Bromberg, Russ Isabella, various other people. We had 9 faculty members from different disciplines whom I called. I found them actually through the Find a Researcher feature of our website, just typed in disturbance and recovery, and what came up were a bunch of people who studied disturbance and recovery in different systems. We ended up with a traffic engineer, someone from, Russ from human development, Ellen from modern dance, Wida Smith from refugee studies, Kim Martinez from the fine arts, Chuck Dorval from neurosciences, Scott Ward from burn trauma, and Sarah Jack Hinnertz from urban development. And the way that we did this was once a month, each of these faculty were willing to take 2 hours of their time to meet together to talk about the theme of disturbance and recovery. Each one of them was asked to present a half an hour's worth of description of how they treat disturbance and recovery in their field. We did that for the first semester, and then the second semester, we tried to find emerging properties, commonalities, new ways of thinking about disturbance and recovery. We felt it was very important, very exciting, because we were really sharing ideas across vocabularies and ways of knowing and theory from these different disciplines. And we came up with a number of really important and I think exciting and transformative ways of thinking of disturbance and recovery of systems. We're now preparing a manuscript for Science Advances. We have a couple of grant proposals that have gone in, that are going into NSF. From my standpoint, I'm working with a traffic engineer because they've got, R.J. Porter has these great models and visualizations of traffic, which is what I want to figure out with bird movement. He works with car movement. And we've also had a number of creative projects with Ellen Bromberg working and creating a video about the dance of a group of refugee people, the Karen people here in Utah. A number of the models have come out to share also with teaching and with creating classes that might find the use of the model of choosing a common theme and bringing different ways of knowing to it. So there was a lot of enthusiasm about it. We think that this can be disseminated with different themes other than just disturbance and recovery, although that was a very useful metaphor. But the question came up with that we addressed to each of the participants was, what made you do this? And what made you feel comfortable about spending 2 hours a month with this practice that would not guarantee that you would come up with a publication or a grant proposal or a project? The general consensus was amongst the faculty, and they were almost all senior faculty rather than junior faculty, was that this was worthwhile just for the exchange of ideas and the potential for understanding something intellectually that was very pleasurable and really extended the way we think. But a number of the younger faculty said, well, you know, I'm looking for tenure here. I'm not sure if this is going to result in a project. And so there was this sense that maybe this was sort of an extra. And so I guess I'd like to pose to the panel here and my fellow faculty the question of how do we sustain, especially the younger faculty, to take on the work, I guess, and the play that comes with interdisciplinary learning and thinking and teaching, without the guarantee that it might result in something that would be more measurable in terms of the academic reward system that we have here.
That sounds like a question maybe first for Ruth.
Well, so I guess first I would say, is there a guarantee in anything that we do that it's going to bear fruit, right? Gosh, that sounded so exciting what you just described. I couldn't imagine a better expenditure of a couple hours a month. I mean, really, that I think for anybody, for any of what we do, there's a risk in pushing down a direction and exploring a new path. The opportunity to do it in a partnership with a bunch of really smart people, it's about as good a guarantee as you're going to get. I think that ideally, maybe when you thought of forming a team like that, of people from very divergent backgrounds, having people at different career stages would probably be sort of a good idea. So there's people in the community who are at a different life stage, who have the opportunity to mentor, support, assist, junior people. I thought where we were going to go with that question was more along the lines of, do we value interdisciplinary scholarship and outlets the same way? And I think the Academy is changing and doing much better. I think that the tricky part, this used to happen a lot in my life as a dean. It doesn't happen as much here and in my current life. But remember the dean's the promotion and tenure committee, people would say, well, how do we know how much of that work Nalini actually did and how much Ellen did? And in a way, it was like this downward spiral of a conversation that got, you wanted to kind of lift that back up to what's the impact of the work. And if we have genuine questions about Nalini's impact, let's go find out. Let's ask. Let's get letters internally for the file from other members of the team. The University of Utah already does that, so that's a possibility. I think that in terms of a way to think about advancing and enriching what you do and bringing new opportunities, I could not imagine anything better than what you described. And it would be so spectacularly powerful to be part of a team like that. Maybe all of us that are more advanced in our career ought to think about doing that with some people that are at different career stages who that kind of a model could help and support. I think everybody on the team was an assistant professor. Maybe that wouldn't be such a good idea. You kind of want a mix of people that can help at different stages.
I think Lori had a response.
Sure. From the A2RU perspective, so from the 10,000 foot deep dive into all of these universities, tenure and promotion comes up over and over and over again. And it's a huge issue, and it's the elephant in the room. And there are several issues. One is that tenure and promotion is very regionalized. It's very campus-based. So it's like to move the needle of that national conversation is huge. That being said, everything happens, when you look at like national politics, it has to happen from a grassroots to a regional to a state to a national. So there has to be these institutions like the University of Utah that's taking these chances. What you described is the best practice exemplar for doing this kind of work. It's about the university providing seed funding, right? Okay, check that box. That's really, it's not a lot of money, it's just a little bit of money. These are often sponsored by institutes and centers. Okay, check that box, right? The issue of junior faculty involvement is huge. Most of our universities in our survey do not encourage junior faculty to participate in interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary work. And the result is, by the time they get tenure, they're off doing something else. Their research, their practicum has already been established. So we're dissuading this work at the very entry point that we should be encouraging it. And this is huge. The multidisciplinary design project you described is quite remarkable. And that, so my question back to you is, how do we scale that? Mm-hmm. And I can tell you what A2RU is doing to address the tenure and promotion issue. We got to do something, right? So we're partnering with Exceed and Seed and the Leonardo Journal and A2RU And we are developing a peer-reviewed, third space, aggregated platform for transdisciplinary work that will be, and we're designing, so then the next question is, so who critiques this work, right? So who is that panel of experts that can critique work that has gone where nobody else has ever gone before? So we're looking at putting together a board of over 100 of the best, finest scholars, nationally, internationally, that we can pull from. And we are designing those, the steps for that peer review process. We think it's absolutely critical. So that, because right now there's no place to publish, right? Where are you gonna put that? You know, who's gonna read it? You know, AAAS isn't gonna do it, you know, and the biology journal isn't gonna publish it, and, you know, the dance journal doesn't want it. You know, so we're actually working with the Leonardo Journal and MIT Press that will be the aggregated platform for this kind of work. And we're at just the very beginning stages, but, you know, that's one thing we're doing.
Chuck?
So, Nalini, I congratulate you on putting this group together. I think one of the most successful ways that you can do this is to pick out an important problem and invite a lot of people from a lot of directions to come and look at this problem through their own lens and learn about the lenses of the other people. It was my privilege to work on a very large project at the University of Utah, the Center for Simulation of Accidental Fires and Explosions. We had about a dozen years, and I remember we brought together computer scientists and applied mathematicians and mechanical engineers and chemical engineers and chemists to look at a problem, and we spent the first year just learning each other's language. But after that,